Digitel is one of the leading companies for live streaming events, running corporate virtual events, or managed webinars. If you're looking to reach worldwide markets or generate revenue from adding a virtual component to your meetings and conferences, leverage Digitel's 33 years of experience in creating flawless online events. For more information, go to digitellinc.com or email them at contactus@digitel.com.
Are you a follower? Okay, so we're gonna probably add.
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Editor-in-Chief Beth Kormanik.
Hi, David.
Hey, Beth, here we are, another GatherGeeks.
Yes, today we're talking with Aaron Gaeir, the CEO of Grandesign. The company got its start in the billboard business and continues in that space today, but along the way discovered events. Today it has a thriving experiential business. It has a whopping 15 activations at Comic-Con in 2017 alone. And its clients include lots of entertainment brands such as MTV, Cartoon Network, Fox, and Sci-Fi, tech brands like Google and Amazon, and consumer brands like ASICS, McDonald's, and Petco. Aaron has a lot of ideas how brands should engage consumers, and he'll also share a new direction that the company is heading in. A phrase we will hear from him is a great one for starting brainstorming. He asks, why don't we, David, it's kind of like the word you use, let's.
Let's, okay, yes. Let's is the most powerful word in the English language because whenever humans get together, what do they say? Let's get a lunch, let's get a dinner, let's start a revolution.
All right, well, let's take a listen.
Okay. So why don't we start off with, give us a little bit, you came from the out-of-home world, and you're about big thinking, big spaces, big design. Give us a little bit about your backstory, and then we'll get into the details, and then Beth will grill you.
Well, gosh, that's a loaded question. You don't ever ask a serial entrepreneur, hey, how'd you start? Because then it's going to be grab a cup of coffee because here we go. But yeah, I'll try to make it short and sweet. I'm just a son of a stay-at-home mom, construction worker, blue collar family in San Diego. Was a competitive athlete, a wrestler, and always had a drive to be the best. I was fortunate to be in All-American and wrestled for the University of Oklahoma, but always had a very creative mind, driven by my mother, who always took us to musicals and plays and showed us everything we could to introduce us to all different art forms, and from macrame and drawing to going to see art in plays and musicals, and loved to be an entrepreneur and a free thinker, and gravitated to those I've mentioned to David, the PLUs, the people like us, the people that were the dynamic kind of world beaters that stood out on their own and took risks and weren't cocky but very confident, and was fortunate enough to gravitate to some out-of-home companies out of Las Vegas. Built a bus shelter company back in the early 90s that we then built and sold to Martin Outdoor and Lamar eventually. And then through that relationship, had met a gentleman named Lawrence Hallier, who started a taxi top business and then grew into New York and San Francisco and became a great footprint for the taxi top business, and was part of building that company in San Francisco and selling that then to a Clear Channel and having that be in their platform of traditional out-of-home and radio. And then finally had the means and hopefully the intellect to then start my first entrepreneurial endeavor, which actually was in the healthcare business through the birth of my son. Always had that. I always had a great ability to be creative and out of the box and think of businesses that had value and scale and competitive advantages, and was able to build that company and then sell that company to Cigna Healthcare before I came up with the company of Grandesign. And Grandesign, as you probably know in the intro, is a company that I was hoping to build to $50 million in 5 to 7 years and have a clear-cut competitive advantage and hopefully a dynamic environment. And we've been able to grow our company from 2 million to just under 50 million in 8 years.
So would you describe it as an event company?
Yeah, we came from the out of home side of our business. I would say that we're a true experiential company that has a traditional out of home arm as well. But we came a little bit different side of what most companies in the space came from. We came from the out of home side, and that's how we stumbled across what we believe to be experiential, the true experiential of engagement, touch, feel, sound, participate, and share, truly experiencing brands and activation. So do we do events? Well, to some, maybe, but to me, I would hope that we were looked at more as an engagement experience and a true experiential company.
Was that the plan from the beginning to do that? Or did that grow out of your working with brands?
No, no. Yeah, I think that it just seems that the great companies or great ideas are, believe it or not, happen by accident. And that was the case for me. I was just, the billboard guy, the out of home guy that knew the out of home space and wasn't in TV and radio and digital and even events. And I just always wanted to do something better and different for my customers. And so I felt like it was obviously having that creative intellect to be able to say, look, I can help you with your billboards and your out of home, but how can we make it better? And I would come up with that out of the box kinds of ideas. I thought our first campaign was Dole about 10 years ago. And we did on behalf of Dole. We were at the Anaheim Convention Center, and they wanted to advertise for the grocery. It was for groceries convention. So you would have your salad bags, or your Dole would have at that time their new salad bags with Caesar salad, and they would advertise that it was crisp and that it was fresh and that it was farm to table, so to speak. And they wanted to do mobile billboards, like anybody else would, that attracted that convention goer. And we said, gosh, we could do so much better. And why wouldn't we just fabricate these giant forks? So I went to this surfboard shaper and fabricated giant forks made out of foam and placed them all over in the bushes or in and around the convention center. So as people were walking in, they could see these giant forks in the bushes like it was a giant salad. And I said, well, why don't we take the valet parking of the Marriott connected to the convention center and do a 3D chalk rendering of a giant salad bowl that you could stand and you look like you were falling into the salad bowl. This was all, pretty innovative. I guess to this day, it sounds very archaic, but no one was really doing that stuff. And no one definitely wanted to take the risk to do those kinds of things, to have people riding pedicabs with giant aprons and forks hanging around their necks, and to do stencil chalk art all over the sidewalks that said fresh and farm to table and crisp and all the taglines that Dole wanted to have. And so all of a sudden this billboard idea to have a truck with a billboard driving around Anaheim became really an immersive campaign that people could walk out of the Marriott and go, wow, let's watch this guy finish this amazing artwork. Or did you see those giant forks? And then did you can get a free ride on a pedicab with a guy that's dressed as a chef or with a big hat and an apron, and everybody knew, and that became, that became kind of iconic for Dole at that time. In fact, the CEO, when he would travel to do his speeches, he brought these forks with him because they became the Dole forks. They became famous in themselves. And people would pick them up and take pictures and say, look at this giant fork that I'm, eating here in Anaheim Convention. And then pretty soon you became the guy. So all of a sudden, hey, we heard you're the guy. Hey, we heard you could do these kinds of things. And that's really kind of the start of our experiential company was by accident, I guess. Hopefully we were creative, but you then became the guy because you did something different.
How do you pitch that it's so relevant when you go into a meeting with a client? Especially the new level marketing people that think about digital only and all of that kind of stuff. What about it? What is that magic sauce?
We've talked a lot about this here at Grandesign, this philosophy of the 1 and 1 equals 3. How can we create this maybe a stagnant ad or a branding ad or billboard and how can we make it more relevant, and how can we make it more progressive? Well, we now have digital boards, right? But what else can we do to even make it better? And that is what I came up with, the 1 and 1 equals 3 philosophy. And that maybe what we can do is we can take that board and we can incorporate it into a more progressive media form like Experiential, to where we can have our cake and eat it too. A great example of this is what we did for Comic-Con at the Javits Center in New York, where we took across the street, we took a parking lot. This was an auto shop that actually had a Tri-Vision billboard on the corner of this gentleman's property. And we went to them and said, look, we'd like to recreate a giant 30,000 gallon tank with a real live mermaid for the show Sirens. And we'd like to recreate a Chinese restaurant. And we'd like to recreate a Cloak and Dagger for the show Cloak and Dagger engagement where you can actually have social sharing. And by doing that, we're also going to incorporate the billboard. So now you have a perfect media mix of a branding vehicle that's large format, but then on the ground you have an experience. And so Freeform took that whole corner, with obviously with Grandesign, and put that on steroids. We took that auto shop and made it an incredible engagement that had never been done before, and now took that standard billboard and made it a lot more relevant. And now to this day, we're actually doing the same thing for next year, but even grander.
I'd love to hear more about the process of getting that off the ground. So, Comic-Con is kind of an event to be, I kind of have to experience it to believe it. I remember we covered the Chinese takeout, this activation that you were describing. I'd love to know what the process is for coming up with an idea for an activation at Comic-Con. Tell us about where does this discussion start? For this example, for Freeform, it sounds like the venue drove the process. You found the perfect spot. But tell us more about this. What is the initial meeting like? How do these ideas come up, and how do you start from scratch?
So I'll give you another example, and then actually this is fun, that you guys are the first time we've actually announced this to the masses. Grandesign now owns Petco Park in San Diego. So what does that mean? The largest Comic-Con in the country in San Diego, Grandesign now owns the parking lot, and we own Petco Ballpark, as well as all the facades, the walls, as well as the Omni Hotel that works with that's right there on property for Comic-Con.
What do you mean when you say you own it?
So what we've done is we've taken the NFL experience for the Super Bowl, and we've created the Comic-Con experience for Comic-Con. So we've taken that concept of saying, look, I want to go to the Super Bowl, but I can't buy a ticket, but this next best thing is I can go participate and engage with Nike, with autograph signings, meet professional players, do some augmented reality like I'm throwing a football. I can actually get the next best thing. I can do an NFL experience and engage in the brand and all the great things around the Super Bowl, but I can't go to the Super Bowl. And some people obviously can, but some that can't get to do this. Same thing with Comic-Con. You have 170,000 people. So how can we, not only that, but you have about 400,000 people that are going to be in and around that whole area of downtown San Diego. So half of which can't even participate or go into Comic-Con because it sells out in minutes. So we've recreated the NFL experience, and we've called it the Comic-Con experience. And so that when you go into the Petco, what used to be a parking lot, is now an experience, one that you'll walk through and participate with brands, customers like Warner Brothers and Netflix and Phantom and Walking Dead and TBS and these are the kinds of clients that have engagements that have true experiential. but now it's in a very robust, area that is all built for them, like the NFL experience.
In that example, you're not coming up with the activations for all the individual brands. Like they're bringing those to you. So when you are meeting with someone, what's the first meeting like? Where do you start out? Say, I'm a brand. I want to activate at Comic-Con. Is that as simple as it starts? Where do you go from there? What's your process?
So as far as there's a couple layers to that. As far as I never wanted to be, again, remember, in the commodity business. So I don't go to customers. We have Grandesign has 132 customers nationwide. Just at Comic-Con last year alone, we have 15 activations, from a floating island for TBS to a giant amusement park for Adult Swim. And you'll be able to see those if you go to our website or look at some of our work. A lot of you have seen it on BizBash. Thank you. You've seen showcase a lot of our stuff. So we don't go to them and say, look, we think you should do an activation here. We go to them and say, with the ideation and the execution, to be able to say, look, where's the best venue going to be? We don't want to be married to any venue. We want to be married to what they want to accomplish in the demos that they want to reach, and the people they want to reach, and how they want to reach it. And if it happens to be Comic-Con, then great. Grandesign, for us, we are a company, I think, that sets ourselves aside, and that we focused our energy towards being the best execution company in the country. I never wanted to. There's so many brilliant minds, and you guys have met them and interviewed them, that are just, to me, are just so impressive. We have an amazing ideation ability, and we have a great creative ability at Grandesign. But even if you don't, our competitive advantage is that we have an amazing ability to execute. And because I never wanted to get in that game of saying, well, his idea or her idea. There are a million great ideas, but there are not very many companies that can execute and those great ideas.
Do the agencies hire you as well? Are you the place that an agency goes once they come up with their idea, or is it a combination? Is it so you're not competing with an agency, or are you?
Yeah, we do both. We do both. I mean, we work directly as well as with the ad agencies. I mean, I would say that about 70-30. So about 70% of our business is direct. About 30 of it is through the advertising agencies. I think that, I give kudos to those ad agencies that have the ability to understand the complexities of what we do and how to keep the integrity of their ideation intact. But that's very, very difficult. And that's why most of our companies like ours work directly with the client, because they don't want to lose that disconnect. They want to keep the integrity of that ideation, whether it's Grandesign's idea or it's their idea or the ad agency's idea. I find that most of the time we are going direct, but there are a handful of ad agencies that are able to understand and be able to work together in bringing these stuff to life. But I think, quick, Beth, I want to answer your question. I mean, the true evolution of how this stuff like Petco comes to be is, again, creating a competitive advantage. I wanted to be able to go to Petco and their property. I want to be able to go to that gentleman's lot in New York. I want to be able to go to Hollywood and Highland. I want to, for Mission Impossible and Jurassic World. I want to be able to go to these people and say, look, I have something no one else has. And that's the ability to not only generate revenue from your billboard or from your facade or your wall, Mr. Omni, Mr. Petco, Mr. Garage Owner, but I'm also able to generate revenue on your actual property, your parking lot, your sidewalk. So they're able. That's ancillary free money. I mean, how many people are coming to them saying, "Hey, how much do you want for your parking lot?" Right. Not a lot. But then even if they did say, well, I've had people, then they're going to go back to, do you have the resume? I mean, if you're going to take over 2 city blocks of Williamsburg, New York, and you're going to paint everything white on behalf of Absolute Vodka. Absolute Vodka says, I want to take 2 city blocks of New York and I want to paint everything white, every bike rack, every building, every brick, every bar, every restaurant, all white. And then I want to have 28 artists from around the world come in and do artwork, from fabrications to graffiti to macrame. And I want to create a whole show, a walking museum. And then I want to have a concert for Absolute. Can you do that? Just the thought of that is silly, right? If somebody just said, well, there's no way. The permits, the logistics, the building owners, putting it back to the way it was, even sounds crazy. But we did it, and not only did we do it there, but we also did it in San Francisco. So to be able to go to those people and say, you want to have that clear-cut competitive advantage to say, look, there are a lot of great ideas, but they die right there because you can't execute. And I took it a little bit further and saying, look, I can make the most out of your property, not for your commodity billboard, but also for your sidewalk. And now you have revenue generating ancillary revenue. So that gives me a competitive advantage. But now I'm going to enhance your property in doing something that everybody's going to say, wow, did you go to the Petco Comic-Con experience?
So that's how you seal the deal in terms of getting the space or the environment on behalf of your client. So you're able to pull that off. So when you work in all these different cities, you brought up red tape. What is the environment like right now? What cities is it easiest to activate in? Who is difficult for you? And how would you like to see those processes change?
Gosh, that's a great question. So I was pursued by some of the biggest out-of-home companies in the country heavily for the exact thing I've just mentioned, the 1 and 1 equals 3, enhancing these assets. And the crazy entrepreneur decided to keep going in this crazy world, and it's been so fun to be able to prove that the synergies between the out of home and the experiential, and how 1 and 1 can equals 3, but to be able to do things that couldn't be done before. To your point, when just the idea of doing the Absolute in particular, who's going to approve that kind of stuff? The permitting and the cities and the red tape alone. So when we built, for example, the It House, we recreated the Warner Brothers It House in Hollywood and Highland, right on the corner, rebuilt it in 10 days, a replica of the house, and it was a real house. One of the CEOs of one of the largest out-of-home companies here in the country had come to me and said, how did you do that? How were you able to build that? Because there's no permit or signed ordinance that will let you do that. And the answer was, how? The mayor signed it. The mayor said, I want the PR. I want everybody to know that LA is continue to move the needle and do progressive things. And I want to be able to wave that flag. So now take that full circle. Now here in San Diego, my hometown, which is at a signed ordinance since 1972, there's not been a billboard that you can build in this town since 1972. These people in this community do not want to see an out-of-home billboard in their community, in their lovely city of San Diego. So how are you going to pull this off? Well, because the mayor and the city councilmen and company and brilliant minds at Comic-Con are now saying, look, there's more here than just a sign. There's an ability to enhance your city and the attractiveness of your city. So when we have conversations like, why don't we take the San Diego airport, a tourism town, and why can't we make a giant whale's tail with a splash zone for SeaWorld? Why can't we recreate a coral reef? Why can't we make the parking lots look like Legoland? And why can't we do the push carts to look like giant dolphins or seals? Now, to anybody else, they would say, that's advertising for SeaWorld. That's Legoland. That's the baggage claim is a roulette wheel, a giant roulette wheel in the baggage claim for the local casino. But the patrons of that place are saying, you got to go to the airport. You got to go to San Diego Airport. That's an experience on their own. Back in the day, people did Grand Central Station because they wanted to get on the train to go home. And now they go there because they want to experience it, because they want to see the food, the entertainment, the music, the culture, the art. Now cities are embracing this and saying, look, I can create a win-win. I can generate revenue, much needed revenue for my city. And I can do it in a cool, classy way that my patrons or the people that live in my community are proud of, and say, thank you for doing that, because our airport is the best airport in the country. It's fun, it's engaging, and people talk about it in the best way. And that's why I think cities are, hopefully nationwide, obviously there's tougher cities, but they're getting more progressive in understanding that, hey, you can create a win-win.
It looks like, though, when we're really talking about sort of a change in the whole zeitgeist of the world, and that they took the word sponsorship and now it's called activation, because it's about participation in what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. And through the advent of the iPhone and things like that, everybody is now participating in sharing and sharing the experience. But it seems like the bigger picture is that you're kind of selling spectacle, and that spectacle converts into revenue for brands because of brand equity and tourism. And it sounds like what you're doing is allowing for a differentiator to help in all aspects of people's lives, because their life is better when they experience these things. It seems to me, and that's kind of the big change. It's no longer about billboards, but it's about, we're all in the, experiences are the new luxury.
If I told you that I had $1 million from SeaWorld for the San Diego Airport, it would be an immediately no. If I told you that I was going to recreate and make an experience for everybody that flew in and out of San Diego, and by the way, you were going to get $1 million, okay, I'm listening. And that's exactly what I think is, for those cities. I even put this to the mayor in the local city here in San Diego, to city councilmen and development community, to say, hey, look, why couldn't the IT House be in San Diego? Do you think that we would have had the same impact of people waiting 4 and 5 hours to go through the IT House and experience the IT House and the 30 characters that we had in there, and props that we had in there from Warner Brothers? I think yes. I think the answer is we could do it in most any city. On foot traffic, but what I am confident is the social sharing of that experience, and saying, I just walked through the IT House in San Diego and look at what I did. So that's where I think that's why it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I hear you describing kind of these one-offs and achieving them through, either a phone call to the mayor or a chat with the city council. What I'm wondering is, have you been able to affect more widespread change or change in general? Do local governments understand this? What do they need to know? What kind of changes need to be made on that? And who's going to advocate for them?
Well, I'm having conversations with these kinds of leaders of these cities in a way that it's why fight it, join it, that this is where it's going, with or without you. And you can either embrace it early or fight it. And this is what the millennials are gravitating to. This is the way that the brands want to market to their customers. And you can do it in a great way, that's a win-win-win. And it's not all about just the almighty dollar.
Is there something specific that needs to change, either in the permitting process or in some sort of zoning? Like what needs to change to make this easier to do, if that's the way the world is going?
Yeah, I think, Europe is far ahead of us in experiential. And I always joke about this. I say, it's probably because our legal system is more robust, that we just have more lawyers here to fight us from doing this. I think I don't quite have the answer. I wish I had a more sophisticated answer. I do believe that city councilmen, and I do believe that the processes are getting a lot easier for the fact that I've said earlier, that they're finally realizing, the guys, that we can have a win-win here. We can save face with our citizens in that, keeping the integrity of the city or the aesthetics of the city, and make it more engaging. And we can kind of, I don't want to say bend the rules, but we can create a win-win for both the advertising world, the event world, the marketing world, whatever you want to call it, and these people in the city council or the permitting processes, in creating a more of an engaging, like San Diego in particular. I mean, I think San Diego is the same thing as Seattle, is the same thing as New York, and across most every major city has the same kinds of pains. But also, I'm seeing the same kinds of changes. And I think as it becomes more and more popular, as you see more and more of these giant executions and these experiences, I think more and more cities are going to adopt it, and they're going to have to if they want to compete.
I want to do a little bit of a lightning round, okay? I want you to respond to I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to sort of summarize the response. So what is the coolest activation that you've done that you want to tell your grandchildren about?
Well, you're making it tough.
But quick, just off the top of your head. This is, pretend we're Barbara Walters, but I'm not going to make you cry.
Yeah. Well, I would actually. It's a great question. There's one that I, obviously the absolute one I think is impressive, but believe it or not, I always go to the simplest execution, one of the simplest executions that we've done a long time ago, that I feel like is a true experience. And that was for the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We took the Monterey Bay Aquarium. This was years ago. And again, how can we bring the experience of the Monterey Bay Aquarium to the beach community, or to the Little League or the soccer tournament, to get people to say you're missing out?
What was
that? We took an Airstream motorhome and we made it look like a submarine. And then what we did is we had people dressed as captains, and we had a narrator, and when we had red velvet rope, and we would go to the Little League weekend Little League tournaments or soccer tournaments, and these kids would then be escorted to get on this submarine, and they would sit in front of the portals, and they would see the jellyfish, and they would see the stingrays, and they would be narrating about the otter and what the otter eats, and they'd walk away with a captain's hat, and they just experience what I think is the simplest.
That's a simple thing. The next thing I want to ask you, though, is what one that you thought would be cool that didn't work, and why?
Oh gosh,
because this will tell our people
that is
how to think about doing things that you think you sit in the brainstorming room and everyone is getting these great ideas, but what's the one that didn't work? You don't have to mention the client or anything like that, but like the concept that that doesn't work anymore or is not working now.
Yeah, I actually don't have one. I mean, I think that, and I know it's a terrible answer, but it's a real answer. I've had somebody said this to me the other day, and it was so just dead on. He was saying, look, if you think that things are going to go to the plan, things never go to the plan. And they were a little bit more abrupt in saying, shit hits the fan. It's how you deal with it is the difference of a good company to a great company. And actually, sometimes when shit hits the fan, you actually come up with something that you never would have had before be way better. And I've had that happen. I've had huge events.
Give us the fast one like that. What's the one that you can describe that turned from lemon to lemonade?
It was, probably Cadillac back in the day when somebody was first doing augmented reality, where we did giant chalk art to recreate if there was a large campaign that they had done about driving the crazy roads all over the world in Monaco and San Francisco, and how the Cadillac would drive through Cairo and these different crazy places. Well, we recreated those with chalk art in New York and in San Francisco and Chicago. And then we had, through an app and a hotspot, you would then be able to do augmented reality to where the car, an actual Cadillac car with your phone, would then drive on that chalk drawing. Well, every city we did, it rained. And it was Miami and Chicago and New York. And luckily, we were prepared for it. And we had these tents and stacked up giant bags of sand. But then what had ended up happening, it created a venue where you had a captive audience that really, whether they wanted to leave or not, once they were kind of in, they were more engaged in the long, granular story of selling the Cadillacs and why they're a great vehicle. So that kind of ended up taking a bad thing and making it a good for us, for sure.
Okay, another lightning round question. What is your most important measure of ROI?
I think that is the biggest question in experiential, is what is the ROI, right? What are the analytics? And I think that we're at Grandesign, that has not been put upon us with the KPIs and the simple, easy, the easy numbers. But I still think that we still have a learning curve of true ROI that we have not even tapped 1/10 of the ability of what our executions are really, really doing to the almighty ROI. And I think all of us as an industry are getting far, far better. But I think that there are so many huge, huge things that we are getting close to that are going to really give the experiential campaigns, the deserved ROI that we know is there. I don't think we're even tapping it right now. I think that right now we're still riding a wave of social sharing and stickiness with these amazing, never been done before experiences. And these campaigns and brands are winning, but I don't think they know exactly why or to the impact that these experiences are moving the needle.
Mm-hmm. So you're experienced in mega events like Comic-Con. If I'm a brand, what's the minimum budget I need to have an effective activation at Comic-Con? What do I have before I can even walk through the door?
Yeah, I think you could do, 50,000 probably.
That's lower than I thought you would say.
Yeah. I mean, we do campaigns from 50,000, on up to a couple million. I think that's another great thing. We just gave you an example of the Monterey Bay Aquarium. There's still that great thing about experiential that you don't need a big budget. If it truly is unique and cool and different, you can still have the same impact as that multi-million-dollar campaign. I guess that's the other thing about experiential that, unlike any other medium, you can calculate hitting, as I say, you can calculate maybe getting a base hit, but in experiential, you could hit a home run.
It's interesting. I just recently finished Sapiens, this book about the history of the mankind, and he talks about experiences. And he says one thing about experiences is that, we're into this experience world now, but that experiences have to get better every year. How do you take a home run one year and make it a triple home run the next year?
I don't think that. I think everybody goes in and tries to get a good base hit and expects a base hit. I don't. If anybody says they're always swinging for the fences, expecting the home run, I think that is very grandiose. I think to say, look, we think we can do special, amazing things, and we know we're going to make an impact, and we know we're going to move the needle. If we hit a home run, that's so hard to predict. I mean, I'd love to meet the guy that or the company that could say, look, we only do home runs. I just feel like that is so difficult.
When you are engineering an experience, do you know what the viral moment is going to be? Or do you have a sense? You say, here's what's going to be Instagram the most, or are you surprised?
No, I don't. And it's so funny. You talk to these people, and you automatically think that they want ROI. You automatically think that they want foot traffic or social sharing. And every one of them is different. Recently had a talk with a client, and they said, look, I don't want any of that. And I was like, well, I thought everybody wanted that. And their whole thing was PR. They just wanted to do something that was PR worthy. And that was it. They could care less about ROI. They could care less about anything else besides that it got publicity because it was so groundbreaking or PR worthy. But some of the things, and David and I know we talked a little bit, and maybe this is a good time. As you can probably tell, Beth, I know the business and I can hit the high notes, but my whole success of my business that we haven't touched on is people. That's my business. That's what makes Grandesign successful. The sophistication of ROI or the brilliant minds of ideation. There are so many amazing companies and people. The competitive advantage that Grandesign has is people, and that's what I focus on. Those people that can answer that.
What is the Grandesign, like? What kind of people are working? What kind of job functions are there? I mean, it's probably a lot different than a magazine. Like, what are the titles?
There's no resumes at our companies. We hire PLUs. We hire people like us. We have a well-defined definition of what these people are. These are the people that everybody's seen even as a kid. They're just natural leaders. They're not cocky. They're proud. They're always people that you want to emulate, people you want to be around. They're engaging. They're big-hearted. They're fearless. They don't want to lose. They're the guys that in the middle of a party will trip and fall on their face, and laugh harder than you, because they know who they are, and they just want to win. And it's not about money. It's about the resume builder. It's about holding their head up high. It's about respect. It's about getting their colleagues and living up to their level. It's about when you're with a bunch of winners and you're with a bunch of these born leaders, true PLUs, these big-hearted people that just want to work hard and prove that they can win. It's so hard to hang out with those people. They demand the best. I mean, if you want to hang out with the true PLUs, you have to bust your ass. And those kinds of people are the people that can pull off the never been done before, because when it rains, they know how to fix it. They know where to. They're nimble, and they can react quickly.
This is fascinating, and we think that our audience will learn a lot about what really works in today's experiential world, which is going to translate to every aspect of the event business and the experience business.
Yeah. So, Aaron, tell our listeners how they can reach you.
Well, Grandesign with one D, as we always say, it's GRAN, Grandesign.com. You'll see we have 7 offices around the country, and we do amazing work. We'll do over about 1,000 executions this year, and with some of the best and brightest brands. We'll be a strong force at Comic-Con in San Diego this year with our Petco, our new asset division in Petco, and we look forward to showcasing that to the world. And hopefully you'll see us in the most progressive executions in the country. I think a lot of people hopefully have seen them, but they didn't know who did it. Well, hopefully maybe now they did.
We're here to celebrate the people that make these grand experiences, and Grandesign certainly is a player.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
David, we've heard a lot of interesting paths people have taken to get into the event industry, and this was a new one, billboards. What do you think they have in common?
Well, I think when you think about exaggerated decor and things like that always attract attention, of course the billboard industry is the same thing. You're trying to attract attention. And these guys are experts at it. So why don't we take that skill set and use what they do all the time and make extravaganzas and make something overly big?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to hear how their business kind of shifted a little, and that they were doing these guerrilla experiential before they even knew really what it was. It was just a way to go beyond billboards to create these experiences. A part of it is, I think creative people just want to be creative.
Well, I did the pre-interview with these guys, and it was incredible what they're doing. And it's all the same achievement. Everyone's trying to do the same exact thing, and they have really cracked the code on how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, though, that agencies will continue to deal with is, getting city governments on board with their plans. And in New York, we and BizBash wrote about some of the new permitting regulations recently. But as agencies dream up new public spectacles and envision these events happening in spaces not previously used for events or activations, they're going to have to blaze new trails, and it may not be easy. I think it also raises the question of what is advertising and what is an experience that people want to organically take part in.
Well, you know what? I do believe that it's all comes down to the same thing, this emotion. How do you capture emotion? And the billboard business and the experiential marketing business and the event industry and even ceremonial things that we do for our own lives capture people's attention and hit our emotional buttons.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. The example of the baggage carousel at the airport, can you activate that space? That's the question. Can you activate this space? And these people are creative and coming up with new ideas, and they always want the answer to be yes, right? And in creating these experiences.
You can activate anything. Our friends even at the Long Beach Convention Center activated an underpass underneath their one of their entrances and turned it into an incredible event space, kind of like out of nothing.
Right. The possibilities are endless.
And
right?
And the geniuses in our business are going to pull anything off that we don't expect. So, Beth, what else is new on BizBash?
Well, I wanted to say to our listeners that if you're enjoying GatherGeeks, then please leave us a review.
Yes, reviews are
iTunes, important. Absolutely. iTunes or whichever your preferred podcast platform is. It will help others discover us and keep the conversation going, and that's what we're looking for. So, so we'll give that ask to our listeners, and thank you in advance.
Great. So I guess we're wrapping up another GatherGeeks. Until next time. Gather on.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the GatherGeeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter @GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of GatherGeeks. Until then, gather on. If you are looking for a state-of-the-art learning management system, take a look at Digitel's newest platform, OpusDX. OpusDX offers the robust platform for event organizers and associations to manage content. To learn more and schedule a demo, email them at contactus@digitelinc.com. That's contact us at digitellinc.com. This episode is also sponsored by Event Leadership Institute. Invest in yourself and your staff with self-paced online event education designed to fit into your busy schedule. Subscribe to the Event Leadership Institute for only $25 per month and gain access to an extensive on-demand video library of classes, as well as interviews with industry leaders. Best of all, you can watch classes in small pieces or all at once. For more information, visit eventleadershipinstitute.com.